Hi and welcome to Baking and Cooling. This series consists of two lessons where we will be discussing more in depth the heat transfer mechanisms. We have conduction, where the heat transfer comes from our baking belt or tray or mold. We have convection, our air, our surrounding that is transferring heat. And we have radiation, so elements in the surrounding of our baking chamber transferring heat towards the cooler product and oven belt. So these three mechanisms are always present during any given time in the baking process. As said, we have convection, as you can see with the blue arrows. We have radiation, as you can see by the red arrows, and we have conduction coming from our baking belt and our skid bars, basically being the black part. At any given moment, we will see that all of them are being present. Some in the blue arrow are more dominant, and when it's forced by a ventilator. This could be in a convection oven, direct or indirect heated, as we've seen, as well as radiation could come from direct gas-fired ovens, as well as cyclotherm ovens, having the tubes inside. We've shown you this picture of a continuous oven with the belt that moves through the oven, and the oven is divided in different zones before. This is used in continuous baking systems, where we have a production line in front and a cooling and packaging line at the back of the oven. In more batch-based processes, it is not very common to have a continuous oven. What is common in any given oven profile is that we have different moments where we would like to change heat. In a tunnel oven, that's much more efficient than in a standing oven where a tray is being put in and needs to rotate around its axis, and we would require temperature to go up or down at any given moment. Secondly, in an oven belt, we cannot change some of the features. An oven belt is always closed or is always open or partially open by either perforation or a wire mesh. With a standing oven, where it is possible to exchange trays, which is much more easier to be more flexible, in this case for different types of products and different profiles. One of the things we haven't discussed before is a system we would call hybrid ovens. As we've learned, about 50% of the total heat is required in the first part of the oven, where, if we recall, we have three different zones during baking: development, stabilization, drying. Not to mention that an oven could have 4 zones, 5 zones or 6 zones, but from a baking profile we only have 3 zones. That means that in the first part, product development, we require about 50% of the heat. Depending on our product and our dimension, there is a more or less efficient way we could transfer that heat. That could be, for example, direct gas-fired ovens, for example, in cracker-based products. Then a second part could very well be convection or cyclotherm, as the heat transfer is much more gradual and we do not need that high heat transfer as we would see with direct gas-fired ovens, especially also in combination with the addition of a little bit of moisture in direct gas-fired ovens, which you will not have in cyclotherm or convection ovens. Based on the different oven types, we have now the opportunity to combine different setups, meaning that we can design each different zone to be used in a different way. So we could combine direct gas-fired ovens with indirect gas-fired ovens. We could use convection with indirect convection. Also, electric heating is an additional option. And nowadays, near infrared is also part of the same type of solution, whereas the last zone is sometimes being used for infrared type of radiation, making sure that we do not need to cook the product anymore or bake the product anymore, but make sure that the color is on point, especially in products that have a high risk of acrylamide formation. There might be a solution with using some infrared techniques to prevent too much Maillard reaction. A hybrid oven gives us a numerous amount of advantages. As you've learned, each oven type has benefits, but also negative effects. They might not be as flexible as you would see with a different type. So the increase of flexibility to change products is increasing when we're using hybrid ovens. Moreover, if we need to work towards a specific amount of moisture, we could control our moisture by a hybrid oven in a much better way than with just a direct gas-fired oven. Also, coloration, for example, is much more uniform. Moisture and color in combination would also lead to reduced amount of checking, as checking, one of the most common causes of checking, that means hair cracks after cooling or after packaging, during transportation of biscuits and cookies and crackers, tends to happen when there is an uneven distribution of moisture. We can have steering methods on our crispiness, texture. In some cases, we see that because of the heat transfer is used in a much more efficient way, that each zone uses in its most efficient way, the total outcome of the production volume can be increased just by choosing a hybrid oven, combining two or more different oven types compared to just choosing one oven type. So as you see, we've tried to put all of that into a table. We see here that each oven has opportunities, although some products require a different type of oven. So cyclotherm is not as good in sponge cakes as it would be in a combination of direct heating and convection oven. Either direct gas-fired, electric oven or convection ovens are reasonable solutions for this type of product, but a combination of two tends to be a lot better. Deposited wire cut products are quite good in a cyclotherm oven as well as in electric or convection oven, but using cyclotherm and convection tends to give you the best solution possible. In rotary molded products, cyclotherm tends to be the most efficient way in combination with cyclotherm and convection. So we see that depending on our product choice, an oven can be chosen as well. So it might not be very efficient to try and produce sponge cake products as well as rotary molded product on the same product line. However, if you look at oven setup, sponge cakes as well as crackers or hard doughs might be possible on the same type of oven. Of course, baking time, baking speed are quite different for cakes versus cracker or hard doughs. So there might be a challenge in the oven on that part. But from a technology point of view, as we see here, that we have many choices, some are more optimal than the other. So we've recognized already that every product requires a specific profile. The more ingredients we use to close structures, such as gelling agent, but also sugar, the lower the temperature needs to be. So high sugar means lower temperature. The smaller the volume, the quicker our baking time will be. If we apply low heat in our ovens, we will see that we have a slow start of our development of our product. Meaning we have more viscosity, more flow, resulting in paler colored products, potentially also drier products, But also the type of oven belt that we use has a different requirement. Lower heat will probably require for more closed belts or completely closed belts. Higher heat means that we have a very quick startup of our baking process. So the product development is fairly quickly. We have the risk of too early coloration, making cracks on a product. If that is undesired, that is a challenge. And we could close the structure in keeping the moisture in. So if we are desiring a softer type of product, that could be a positive thing. If we need to bake the excessive moisture out, high heat in the beginning of baking processes is a challenge. So remembering that putting in 50% of the heat in the first phase does not always mean that the heat needs to be very high, but it has to do also with the length that the product has to withstand the heat. So for that we need to know its ingredient composition in combination with the size and shape and weight of our product.